Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Correia.
Hello, American families. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Correia. And if you love your family, care about them deeply, and want to learn how to protect them in every facet of your life, then you've come to the right place. We have a great show for you today, and I know that you're going to love it. First up in segment 1, we'll be speaking with my children, and then we will delve deeply inside the recesses of Skip's shadowed brain. Then we'll talk about what's in the news. I am seeing creepy clown attacks in our future. Then in segments 2 and 3, we have got John Correia from Active Self-Protection. We have him back. I loved it last time we had him on. And this week he's talking about the moral use of deadly force. First, let's talk about the two guests I have in my studio. Normally I have them one at a time, but today I have Phoenix and Amethyst Correia. Phoenix and Amethyst, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies first, right? So we should start with Amethyst. Amethyst, you are just a beautiful little princess today. I love the dress that you have on. What color is this dress? What would you call that?
I would call it really orangish pink.
Orangish pink. Is that a new Crayola color for crayons?
I don't know.
I think they should make an orangish pink because it just looks so beautiful on you. It highlights your eyes and your hair is just so beautiful today.
Thanks.
Well, what do you want to do today? If you could do anything you wanted, what would you do?
I don't know.
Right. Well, when you figure it out, you come and tell me and we'll see what we can do, okay?
Okay.
So, Phoenix, what would you do if you could do anything that you wanted today?
Shoot guns with you?
Oh, speaking of that, we shot guns a few days ago, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what gun did you shoot? Do you remember?
I think it was a pistol.
Well, you started with a pistol, and you shot that one. It was a .22 Ruger Mark III target pistol. And then we went to a bigger gun, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have fun shooting that big rifle?
Yes.
Okay. That was my AR-15, and you shot 30 rounds. 30 bullets through that thing. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And it was like bam, 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 bam. And man, you were grinning away and you dug a hole right in the dirt with that thing. You shot it so fast and so much.
Well, you did help me.
Well, yes, definitely. It's the only safe way to let kids shoot guns is to hold the gun for them and help them out with it. So I'm just happy that both of you love to shoot guns and that you love to go deer hunting with me, because that is a very special time for daddies.
Well, I also like shooting arrows.
Yes, you like shooting arrows too. And you know what? We have to start practicing with my crossbow, because today is September 1st. 1 month from today is the opening day of deer season. So we need to practice with the crossbow today. Would you guys like to do that?
Yes!
Yes.
All right. After the show, we will practice the crossbow and we will have fun, okay?
Okay.
All right. I need to get on with the show. But Amethyst, why don't you tell the people how to safely use guns?
Always keep the gun pointed in a safe direction.
Always keep the finger off the trigger until ready to shoot.
Awesome and very wise, sage advice from a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old who know about safe gun handling. All right, kids, you head on back to Mommy now, and we'll shoot crossbows later on, okay?
Okay.
All right, love you. Bye-bye.
Love you.
All right, folks, those are my two youngest. It's so fascinating, so wonderful to me to be, in 16 days, I will be 60 years old. And I have a 6-year-old and a 7-year-old. And it's like, wow, what that tells me is that I have to be ever vigilant stay alert, stay alive, because if I don't stay alive, I can't raise those kids. And those kids need me to protect myself so that I can protect them. And I realized the most important thing that I'll ever do in life is probably to make memories for my kids. Because I look back fondly and not so fondly on memories that my parents gave me. And it's the good memories that you choose to remember. But you have to give them all those good memories so that they can face life, because life can be really tough. There's a lot of different ways to defend your home, defend your family. And one of those ways is spiritual. We should do a spiritual and emotional. We should do a whole show on that, and we'll work on that. Without further ado, let's get into Skip's brain. Skip's brain is a convoluted, wet, sticky place with lots of shadows. I have just been working very hard, cutting wood, splitting wood, hauling wood. It's already an early fall, and I have a feeling it's going to be a long, early, hard winter. So I'm working hard on that. My log splitter broke down. I'm trying to fix that. Chainsaw, it's cutting like a butter knife. So I got to work on that as well. So that's my big deal for this week. Plus, keep on canning. Training season for the advanced classes is just about over. 1 month remaining in that, and then it's bow hunting par excellence. Got to fill the freezer after that. So that's what's going on with me. In the news, all kinds of weird stuff in the news this week. I went on Drudge Report and I looked at that and I thought, wow, what a crazy, interesting world that we live in. Every week I say, hey, world's going to hell in a handbasket, and I'm accurate. All kinds of stuff going on down in Texas after Hurricane Harvey, but it's good that people, for the most part, stayed polite and helped each other. That's a difference between Texas and New Orleans, I guess. Inside the news, what do we have? Let's talk about something happy, something funny. Let's talk about clowns. Headline reads, Pennsylvania State Police warn about possible return of creepy clown sightings. Clowns are supposed to be funny. They're not supposed to be creepy. Thank you very much, Stephen King, for ruining that one for us. Pennsylvania State Police are warning about the possible return of creepy clown sightings. Police issued a community awareness bulletin as the Stephen King movie It nears its theatrical release next month. Quote, with the fall of 2017 upon us, it is anticipated that similar creepy clown sightings could be reported starting as soon as September, in part due to the fact that the movie It will be released in theaters on September 8, 2017, the bulletin reads. The movie, which is adapted from a Stephen King novel by the same name, portrays an evil demon who takes on the shape of a clown named Pennywise that stalks kids from within the sewers and killing them when they least expect it. Sightings were reported in 16 states last year, including Pennsylvania. The creepy clown craze in September 2016 resulted in at least a dozen people arrested in Georgia, Alabama, and Virginia for either taking part in the menacing stunt or for making false reports. Wow. It's not enough that we have to defend against muggers and home invaders, Islamic terrorists, active shooters, MS-13 gangs, the knockout game. Now we have to worry about clowns? Come on, folks. America is better than this. But hey, I guess you got to think about it. Make a plan. If you are approached by a creepy clown, what should you do? Should you pull out your gun and shoot him? Should you turn and run? Should you hide? What should you do? As a self-defense trainer, my advice to you is just walk away. Just turn around and walk away. Give the creepy clown a wide berth. Let him bother someone else, but just get away from him. Don't engage these creepy clowns. They're idiots. They're probably mentally ill or on drugs. Who knows? Maybe they really are demon-possessed. So stay away from the creepy clowns, because if you let crazy clowns into your life will get crazy. What else do we have? What is it about Crazy people that makes them want to be naked. 2 men arrested while brandishing guns in California megachurch. They also had firearms. 2 men were arrested in Irvine, California megachurch yesterday after a brief standoff with police. The 2 men were reportedly armed, but that's not where this case gets kind of bizarre. Oh no, not by a long shot. 2 naked men with rifles were arrested inside Greg Laurie's megachurch in Irvine Wednesday night. SWAT teams with rifles trained on the suspect put handcuffs on them and walked them out without any clothing. Video of the new report sheds no additional light on just what the heck was going on. However, it does appear that the 2 men were clothed when they entered the building, though both were nude when they exited and were placed in police custody. What we do know is that a security guard saw the 2 men enter the church with rifles about 7:30 Wednesday night and notified police. The 2 men allegedly barricaded themselves in, holding off law enforcement for 2 hours, according to officials. After a standoff with police, the 2 men eventually surrendered, leading to a peaceful, if bizarre, outcome. You know, that reminds me of when I was in the Marines. One of the things the drill instructors would come down on us for is if we ever called our rifle a gun. They would make us do a gesture, which is obscene, which obviously this is radio, we can't do that. But they would make us say, "This is my rifle, this is my gun. One is for shooting, one is for fun." This is a family show, so that's as far as we'll go on that. Luckily, everyone got to go home at the end of the day. Police got to go to their families, and the 2 men have an opportunity to meet that someone special in jail. We all know how these jailhouse romances go, and I'm not one to judge. I can only imagine their arrival without clothing is bound to raise a few eyebrows and possibly make them the belle of the ball. Might just be a win for everyone. I doubt that. Okay. Looks like the world of church security got even more interesting. If you're on a church safety team, just call out the challenge command. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. On second thought, don't show me anything. Crazy, crazy world. Oh, well. Okay, folks. We're about running out of time here, but when we come back, we're going to have John Correia from Active Self-Protection. He's going to be speaking about the moral use of deadly force as it pertains to Christianity. What does the Bible say about it? When can we use deadly force, or should we at all? Does it mean thou shalt not kill or thou shalt not murder? What exactly is it? John, who is a pastor in Phoenix, Arizona, he will share his opinion on the topic. We're going to take a 2-minute break now. While you're listening to our sponsors, I want you to go ahead and go to Amazon.com, punch up Stephen King, It. Read the book while we're away. You'll only have 2 minutes, so you'll have to read very, very fast. And then send me an email. Tell me your opinion. Are creepy clowns really demon-possessed, or are they just crazy? This is Skip Correia on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
My name is Cedar Correia. Welcome to the Home Defense Show with my dad, Skip Correia. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Correia from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us. This is Skip Correia from the Home Defense Show, and I want to talk to you about keeping your kids safe around guns. I've never been a big fan of trigger locks, but I have to tell you, I have found a product called Child Safe One. It's a trigger blocker, not a trigger lock, and it works fantastic. I tried it out on my kids, and they could not get the Child Safe One off the training gun. I gave them 5 minutes. I sat there and I watched them, and they couldn't do it. Folks, I am satisfied, more than satisfied, that my kids are safe around Child Safe One. Here's the good thing about it. I can get that lock off the gun in under 2 seconds, but my kids can't even figure out how it works. Child Safe One is a win-win for everyone in the family. My wife's happy because she knows the guns are secure. My kids are happy because they're safe. And I'm happy because when the wolf comes a-knocking, I've got that gun cocked, locked, and ready to rock in less than 2 seconds. So go to globalgunsafety.com and get Child Safe One today. That's globalgunsafety.com. Check it out now and tell them the Home Defense Show sent you. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Correia. We have a guy back, John Correia from Active Self-Protection. He was so good last time, we wanted to have him on again. John, welcome to the Home Defense Show.
Thanks for having me, Skip. It's always a pleasure to be with you, man.
All right. Now, John, you're out of Arizona, correct?
That's correct. Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix. So, did you get any of that hurricane down there that's happening in Texas, or all that miss you?
No, that's way far away from us. So that's 500-600 miles from the border of West Texas for us. So
okay.
We're getting a little bit of monsoons like we always do, and a little bit of rain and a lot of heat. Welcome to Arizona summer.
Okay. Well, I'm up here in Michigan, and boy, I camped out with my 3 little kids last night, and it was like 48 degrees at night, very humid. So I woke up with a really stuffed up nose, but you know what? It's one of those things you have to do because, hey, your kids want to do it, and you're making memories for your kids, right?
Amen, man. You got to do that stuff. That's the kind of stuff that you'll never get back that time. So I'm glad you did it.
Well, hey, John, let's first tell the listeners about Active Self-Protection and the things that you do online.
Yeah, so I founded Active Self-Protection in 2011. A little background on me. My full-time job, I pastor a church in the Northwest Phoenix area, but I founded ASK in 2011 because I have a real passion for self-protection as well. I've got about 11 years of martial arts study, a little bit, and I've got a first-degree black belt right now in my art, and I also am an NRA and Rangemaster certified pistol instructor and a bunch of other stuff. So what I'm known for, though, is that people send me real-life surveillance videos of armed robberies, carjackings, muggings, stabbings, home invasions, assaults, stuff like that. And I do after-action reports on them, so I narrate them for lessons. Mm-hmm. So, we walk through the video and see what we see, and then we come back and we learn lessons based on if it went well, this is where it went well, and what the defender did well, and if not, this is what they didn't do well. So we post a new one of those on our YouTube channel every single day. We're reaching about 18 to 20 million people a month on YouTube right now. And those 2 to 5 minute lessons, people really get a lot of value out of. And then also on our Facebook page, we do not only post those, but we also post links and pictures and discussions for people to help them as they walk their journey of self-defense to do so in an effective, moral, and legal manner. And, of course, everything's posted on our website as well. ActiveSelfProtection.com is kind of the center of everything that we do.
I watch that almost every day. I watched probably, 7 or 8 of those yesterday. And, boy, it just really helps me as an instructor because what I've found is that the vast majority of my students, and I guess I would even include myself in that, we have trouble wrapping our head around evil. I don't know what else to call it. Evil, rage, anger, drug-induced insanity. I mean, all of those things. It's like they don't fit into our paradigm. It's not a part of our normal everyday life until all of a sudden, out of the blue, you get attacked by a crackhead. And, but watching it happen on video.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I see among good people and I have to combat is that good, normal people like us, they expect criminal actors to think like they do. Mm-hmm. And they expect them to follow the same rules of decorum and society that we do. And, of course, that's just ridiculous. If they followed those rules, they wouldn't be violent criminal actors. And so getting people into the mindset that says, listen, when someone attacks me, they're going to be someone who does not think like me, does not act like me, does not care about things like I do. And, of course, I'm not talking about externals there. I'm not saying it doesn't look like me in the sense that, they don't dress like me or they're not the same ethnicity as me. I don't care about any of that stuff. But they don't do the things that I do. Their psyche is different than mine is. And not expecting that, not really living in that world and understanding it really puts us at risk.
Well, John, what exactly is the psyche? I mean, we know what normal is, but how do these people think?
Well, I mean, you got to recognize at their core, everybody does what they think is right. And the funny part is that when the police interview criminals, especially violent criminals, most violent criminals think they're good people. Most violent criminals don't equate what they're doing with evil. They find some way to justify their behavior and their actions in the sense of, well, I had to provide for my family, or that person, if they didn't want to get robbed, shouldn't have put that stuff there, or things like that. So they find a way to justify their behaviors, and they, generally speaking, they have a strong psychopathic tendency towards lack of empathy. So they don't think about others. You and I think about others. If you bump someone in the store, most people, oh, I'm sorry, are you okay? That's we're thinking about what our actions just did to someone. Whereas violent criminal actors don't care about you, and they don't care about the impact of their behavior on others. They only care about the impact of their behavior on them. And that distinction alone really teaches us how to protect ourselves and why to protect ourselves against a violent criminal actor, because they don't care about you. If they cared about you, they wouldn't pull a gun on you. They wouldn't threaten you with a knife. If they had any empathy for what would happen in your world, they wouldn't steal your money, because they would know that you need that money to pay your bills.
Right.
Or they would ask for help. So that's the biggest thing that we see, is that they have an incredible lack of empathy, and instead they think as a predator, just like a cheetah doesn't think about the effect of their behavior upon the gazelle. They think about the hunger in their belly. A violent criminal actor thinks about the hunger in their belly, not the effect of their behavior on their victim.
That just blows me away. Do you have any insight on what might cause that? How does a person get like that? Because it seems to me like they're broken inside. How does that happen?
Well, I mean, if we could identify exactly why somebody has a lack of empathy, I think we could make incredible strides in the mental health community. In fact, lack of empathy is a huge problem in psychopathy. So I'm not a mental health professional, so I couldn't be that guy. But I do think that we can certainly say that some of it is cultural, some of it is the upbringing that somebody is brought up in, whether that's sociological or familial. So if it's in their family that they're taught that they have to be, they have to get over on others, that they have to fend for themselves. A lot of times in the fostering world, we see children who showcase those kind of psychopathic tendencies if they're not headed off, because they have no supervision and no nurturing. If somebody has very little nurturing when they are young, then they will tend to start to look out for themselves and view others as competition rather than community. So and in those instances, we see much higher rates of psychopathy.
Yeah. This is Skip Correia on Home Defense Show. We're speaking with John Correia, and we're talking about the criminal mind, I guess. Now, John. So it sounds like it's selfishness gone wild, selfishness to an extreme. Is that the layman's way to say it?
Yeah, for a lot of them, that's what they find in the post world when they're talking about, especially repeat offenders. I mean, sometimes you see people just with our sin nature gets after us, right? So some people, especially property crimes, they're crimes of opportunity. They may not have those tendencies. But violent criminals, those who will point a gun at you, those who will repeat as offenders, then that's what we tend to see. So that's the kind of mindset you have to be ready to defend yourself against. Now, you might run across the rare armed robber who's not that way, but depending on the empathy of somebody pointing a gun at you is probably a bad way to go about your self-protection.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how do they get to the point where they are totally desensitized? And let me tell you a story here. This was from one of the videos that you had on ActiveSelfProtection.com. There was a man, 3 men at an ATM machine, 1 getting cash and 2 waiting. And the second guy in line had a rolled up newspaper, and he just waited, and then all of a sudden he pulls a knife out of the newspaper and just starts going to town, stabbing the other guy waiting, and he killed that man. It's like, how do you get to that point where you don't feel anything at all? And it's like, what do you get? Maybe $200? He killed a man for $200. I can't wrap my head around that.
Too, thankfully, but no, and of course, that's good, Skip. You should thank God that you don't get it. Okay.
Yeah.
Because if you got that, then that would make you a psychopath.
Oh,
that's just honest truth.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean it. I mean, when people go, man, I don't understand how people can do that. My first response is be grateful for that. If you did understand it, if you were like, well, I mean, I could kind of see where he's coming from, then that's when you need to go get help.
Yeah.
And what we see there is, again, these people that are going to these places, and this crosses almost every boundary. This crosses socioeconomic boundaries. This crosses ethnicity boundaries. This crosses cultural boundaries. That we see that goes hand in hand with what we call narcissistic tendencies, and those narcissistic tendencies are everything's about me, and you exist to fund my needs. You exist in my world in order to meet my needs, and you're responsible for you, and I'm responsible for me, and I don't care what happens to you. So when you take that to the extreme, now there are people that are that way, that are narcissists, that aren't violent. So don't hear me say that all narcissists are murderers, but what we see instead is that the extreme version of that, the one that is at the very edge of the bell curve, those are the ones who will take that extreme to, and I'm willing to commit violence against you in order to support myself. Mm-hmm. And those are the guys they make movies out of.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and they do all kinds of studies and things like that. And when there's an active shooter or something like that, the news media, they'll get on there and they'll say, authorities are struggling to figure out why someone would do something like that. And I tell my students, I'm not here to tell you why this person is trying to kill you. At the point where someone's holding a gun in your face, threatening to press the trigger, you're not probably concerned with why he's doing it. You're just thinking, how in the world do I survive this? At that point, you don't care why.
Yeah, I mean, we care about why in the aftermath so that we can hopefully try to prevent it moving forward. And I think that's wise. The more that you can prevent these kinds of things from happening, then the better off you are. Mm-hmm. But in the moment, you don't care about why. You care about stopping that threat so that you are safe. And that's the overriding thing that you're thinking in that moment. And I think that's wise. I don't want to have a kumbaya moment with an armed robber unless that armed robber wants to put the gun down and let's talk like human beings.
Sure.
And once he does, then yeah, sure. You know what I mean? I have empathy for the human race. I pastor church, for gracious sake. Mm-hmm. I want to help people to get out of those kind of situations and instead be good and productive members of society. But the first way I'm going to do that is I'm going to make him stop threatening me with that gun. And if I have to do that, if he points a gun at me, the most effective way that I know how to do that is to shoot him until he stops.
Right. John, we're about out of time for this segment. But when we come back, what I'd like to talk about is the aspect of Christianity. What does Christianity teach about use of deadly force? And how can people get past that turn the other cheek kind of attitude, if indeed you think they should do that? So we'll be back here in a couple of minutes. This is Skip Correia on the Home Defense Show. While I'm away, go online, go to activeselfprotection.com. Check out John Correia there. Maybe watch one of his short videos, and by the time you're done, you can come back and listen to us. This is Skip Correia on Home Defense Show. We will be right back.
This is Felix Correia on the Home Defense Show. Always use guns safely and wisely. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Correia from the Home Defense Show, and I want to talk to you about keeping your kids safe around guns. I've never been a big fan of trigger locks, but I have to tell you, I have found a product called Child Safe One. It's a trigger blocker, not a trigger lock, and it works fantastic. I tried it out on my kids, and they could not get the Child Safe One off the training gun. I gave them 5 minutes. I sat there and I watched them, and they couldn't do it. Folks, I am satisfied, more than satisfied, that my kids are safe around Child Safe One. Here's the good thing about it. I can get that lock off the gun in under 2 seconds, but my kids can't even figure out how it works. Child Safe One is a win-win for everyone in the family. My wife's happy because she knows the guns are secure. My kids are happy because they're safe. And I'm happy because when the wolf comes a-knocking, I've got that gun cocked, locked, and ready to rock in less than 2 seconds. So go to globalgunsafety.com and get Child Safe One today. That's globalgunsafety.com. Check it out now and tell them the Home Defense Show sent you.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if life was like the movies and the good guys always won? In today's world, if you're forced to use your firearm to protect yourself, you will need protection. Firearms Legal Protection is here for you. FLP provides you with seasoned, experienced attorneys that handle your criminal and civil matters as a result of you protecting yourself. FirearmsLegal.com provides its members with uncapped attorney's fees, bail bond protection, and coverage in all 50 states. We are not a reimbursement plan. You can access uncapped attorney's fees for as low as $10 a month. Firearms Legal members are provided with educational services, training videos, and access to our vast national attorney network. While you're protecting yourself, let Firearms Legal protect you.
Listen up, folks. This is important. There are plenty of legal protection services out there, but none will protect you as well as Firearms Legal Protection. This is the one I use and the only one I recommend. Visit firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and protect your family now. All right, this is Skip Correia on Home Defense Show. We are back with John Correia from Active Self-Protection, the man with 10,000 violent videos, real-life videos that he has analyzed and studied. John, last segment we talked all about the criminal. Now let's talk about the victim. You know, it's so hard for people to cross that line where they take another human life. And in my experience, it's even tougher for certain people, you know, like people with very strong Christian beliefs. You know, they were raised on turn the other cheek and thou shalt not kill and all of those things. Can you talk about that for a while?
Yeah, sure. I mean, okay, first of all, let me say that in the broader Christian community, of which I am a small part, there is a great deal of disagreement. There are varying perspectives on Christians and self-defense, and I honor that. I think that if your spiritual convictions say that you're a pacifist or you could not ever be violent to stop violence, well, then you should live that out. I do think in an overall sense that I approach this topic from the way that the Apostle Paul talks about it in Romans 14, that each one must be firmly convinced in their own mind, and we shouldn't look down our noses or in disdain at somebody whose opinion is different than ours. Now, that said, I think that the best understanding of Scripture is that self-defense and the protection of life is biblically acceptable and is moral and a spiritual good. And therefore, it's not just allowable to do, but it's actually a spiritual good and service to Christ in order to protect yourself and to stop a crime. I do have a 4-part series on this on my personal blog, which is biblicalframework.com. That's my pastoral blog, and it needs an update. It's a little old at this point, but it lays out the foundations of a biblical case for self-defense in the Christian community. And here's what I tell folks. First and foremost, if we go to the very beginning of the book, Genesis chapter 1, 26 and 27, that God creates humans in his image. Male and female, he created them. So the image of God means that people, human beings, are of inestimable value and worth and dignity, and unique in all of creation. And no one has the right to take that from you. The Christian community, hopefully at its core, values life above all other things. We value the incredible value that God has placed on people. So defending that at its core then says, I'm not interested in taking another life, but I am very interested in guarding the incredibly valuable thing that is my life or the lives of others. We guard and we protect that which we value. And so therefore, life is valuable. Next, after the fall, the very first punishment that we see after the fall in Genesis is God punishing Cain for his murder of Abel.
Yeah.
And so the taking of human life, murder, is abhorrent to God, and we see that all the time. And then we can move forward a bit in the book of Exodus. Though people do love to talk about you shall not kill. Now, that's from the King James Version there, and I don't want to get into that discussion as to which version of the Bible is best. But I do want to say that we should consider a couple things. First of all, I think that the King James Bible 1611 was excellent when it was made in 1611. It was an incredible translation for its time. That is about 400 years old, and just like reading Shakespeare today, those words are English, but they're not the English that you and I speak. You know, if you want to read a Shakespeare play, you got to take a class on reading Shakespeare and on Shakespearean English to understand it. Somewhat the same in the King James English. Anyhow, that translation of that word there, every modern scholar that I've ever read, all through my seminary training, all through my doctoral studies, which I haven't finished my doctorate, don't hear me there, I'm halfway through.
Okay.
Would argue there, and everywhere else in Scripture that we see that term, that Hebrew term, that in Exodus 20 in the Decalogue and the Ten Commandments is translated kill, is not any killing. It is murder, in particular, the unauthorized taking of human life. So every modern translation translates that as you shall not murder. Well, murder is not the same as killing. What we see, actually, there's an example of it in the same context. If you keep reading in Exodus as God unpacks what it means in the Decalogue, in chapter 22, verses 1 and 2, there's a discussion on a thief that breaks into someone's home and whether or not you can stop that person. So what he says there is that if a thief is caught while he's breaking in and is struck so that he dies, then there is no blood guiltiness on his account. So in other words, what God says is if you catch this person breaking into your home and stop him, you strike him such that he dies, you're guilty of murder in that case. But the next verse says, however, if the sun has risen on him, in other words, if he has gotten away and you chase him down and then get back to him in retribution, he says, then there's blood guiltiness. So what we see there is the principle that stopping somebody invading your home where they would be a threat to your life is acceptable to God, but vengeance and retributive justice is not on an individual basis. That, according to Romans 13, is the purview of the state, not of the individual. So we know that Exodus 20 doesn't talk about all killing. Exodus 20 talks about unauthorized killing, which is what we call murder. That's why murder is illegal in every state in the Union and all over the world, the unauthorized taking of human life. However, self-defense is very much okay. And, of course, we see examples of that in the Old Testament. We see that in Nehemiah chapter 4, one of my favorite chapters, where, you know, they were worried about violent criminal actors. Sanballat and Tobiah were not authorized to give Nehemiah a hard time. Nehemiah had the authorization of the king to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and his response to the unauthorized aggression of Sanballat and Tobiah and their people is to arm the populace and to set them in their places so that they could defend their families. And that was okay. Now, if you get to the New Testament, of course, you know, the place that my pacifist friends love to camp is Jesus' command in the various synoptic gospels to turn the other cheek. If someone strikes you on the left cheek, turn to him the right one as well. Well, that's in the Sermon on the Mount, of course, which I believe is Jesus' discourse for the ultimate in kingdom living, the way to bring and have as much of the kingdom of God here today as you could. And what I believe he means there, and I think that most scholars would agree, is not about violent actors. Instead, that slapping someone on the cheek wasn't really about the physical violence, but about the insult. In the Jewish world in which Jesus lived and taught, slapping somebody was a huge insult. And, you know, it's the same way today. You think about that. If a man is hitting on a woman and she wants to tell him that she's offended, slapping him across the face isn't about assaulting him. It's about insulting him. Mm-hmm. And in that same way, what Jesus is saying there, I believe, is if somebody insults you in the greatest way imaginable, slaps you across the face, then you need to take that insult and not retaliate with more insults, but continue to reach out to him. And so the reason that I would argue that is when we go to Luke chapter 22. In Luke chapter 22, verse 36, all my gun-loving friends love this one. It's their favorite verse, right? Let he who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. And Jesus is preparing the disciples there, his apostles, for life without him. You know, just after this, Jesus is going to go and be crucified and buried and rise again, and then 50 days later leave them. And so he's preparing them for ministry without him. And he says, look, the last time I sent you out, you didn't have anything. I sent you out with no tunic. I sent you out with no money pouch. I sent you out with nothing, and you did okay, right? And they said, yes, Lord. Well, now this time I'm telling you, I want you to take along a money sack. I want you to take a pair of sandals, and I want you to have a sword with you. Now that sword that he's talking about, the Greek term for that sword, it's not a hunting implement. It's not a kitchen tool. That is the word for the sword that the Roman soldier carried, and that is the tool that took over the world in which Jesus lived. It was the version in their world is an assault rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, I want you to have one of those. Now they come back and say, Lord, there's two. Well, I only have two of them. And he said, all right, that's enough. As long as somebody has some, as long as you have a couple of them, then that's okay. So I think that means that not everybody has to carry, but that he's authorizing that. And what that would be useful for them, he wasn't telling them to join the Roman army, but they were going to travel throughout the entire empire. And the presumption was that they would use those against violence, against brigands on the road, which was a far greater threat in their world than in ours, and that they would need that to protect themselves. Not against the government per se. I'm not talking about, violent resistance against the Romans. In fact, church history says that almost all of the apostles were martyred for their faith, and so he's not talking about insurrection there, but about protection from criminals. Mm-hmm. And so I think Luke 22 really lays that home. I think the Apostle Paul in the book of Romans in chapter 12 kind of sets out the ethic for us as well. In Romans 12, he says that, insofar as it depends on you, as much as possible, be at peace with all people. But there's a couple caveats there. It says, if possible, so much as it depends on you, be at peace with people. And there are some people who won't be at peace, and we have the right to stop a deadly threat. So when I put all those together, defending the image of God in me and having the authority to protect my life, given that from God, I still have to apply that very carefully because I have to value all life. So I tell people all the time, I never shoot. People talk about this all the time, shoot to kill, shoot to kill, shoot to kill. No, I shoot to stop. I shoot to stop the threat. And the only way I know to stop a threat is to put shots in the center of mass until they decide to stop. Most handguns stop someone because of psychology. They shoot somebody and then they do what I call the fibs factor, fudge, I've been shot, and they find something better to do. That's not, they died. We know about 85% of people shot with a handgun in America live because of our incredible medical system. And that's not my goal either. I don't care if they make it or if they don't. They've made their bargain with God, but I want to stop them from harming me. So my goal isn't to kill. My goal is to stop. Now, if they die in that, I believe that is their moral responsibility, not my moral responsibility. I think that the consistent call of Scripture is that when someone is in sin, when somebody is sinning, that they bear the burden of the payment for their sin, the person who stops them from that. And I actually think it's a moral good to stop them because we're culpable before God for what we've done. And so stopping them from murdering someone is a moral good. So actually self-defense, rather than being something that goes against God, is a moral and spiritual good and something that I believe brings him pleasure and goodness. Now, of course, we have to be judicious in that. If we cross the line to become attackers ourselves, or we take and usurp authority that's not ours and become punishers, then we're not defending anymore. We put ourselves in the place of judge and jury, which I don't think pleases the Lord. So we have to be careful of that. So responsible self-defense, careful self-defense, and a reading and an understanding of Scripture that takes a literal, grammatical, historical look at what it meant in Jesus' day and how that applies to me, says that I think responsible self-defense is a moral good.
Yeah, you know what, John, you've convinced me. Actually, I was already convinced, but you laid it out really well. And that URL, again, it was biblicalframework.com. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you go on if you just search biblicalframework.com for Christianity and self-defense, there's a 4-part series there that lays that out with a little bit more argumentation. It's a little old at this point. I probably need to update it, but it's a great start for people to do some research.
Okay, fantastic. All right, John, we're just about out of time on this segment, but I will definitely pass that on to my students, and the listeners got a hold of it now. So, John, before you go, tell us how people can get a hold of you with questions or how they can see your work.
Yeah, so the best way to see what we do is to find us on YouTube. That's youtube.com/active self-protection, all one word. You can also find us on Facebook. Tons of great discussions there every day. Facebook.com/active self-protection. We also post significant additional lessons for every video with a link to the video, and you can watch it right there on the website at activeselfprotection.com. If you need to get a hold of me, if I can answer any questions for you, the fastest and easiest way is to private message me on our Facebook page. If you have a Facebook account, go to our Facebook page, hit the message button. We answer messages every day, and we get hundreds of them. So give us a little bit of flexibility. But we do answer messages on our Facebook page. Would love to help you there. You can also private message me on YouTube, though that's a little bit more difficult.
All right, fantastic. John, thank you very much. We got about a 2-minute break here. While I am gone, I want you to go to biblicalframework.com. Check that out, activeselfprotection.com, and study and learn all about the nature of evil and decide in your own mind how can I use deadly force. All right, this is Skip Correia on Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Welcome to my dad's Home Defense Radio show. You're gonna love it.
Hey folks, this is Skip Correia, host of the Home Defense Show. I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Correia Civilian Combat. It'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book, by yours truly, Skip Correia. This is Skip Correia from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us. Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Correia. Those last two segments with John Correia, they were fascinating. They were great. He does a really good job defending use of deadly force by Christians, by all people, for that matter. Very highly studied, has a well thought out and very educated position. He uses the Bible as his main source, and if you are a Christian, that's where you go to find capital T truth as well. He mentioned biblicalframework.com. I went there, and I'm just going to read to you the first paragraph here. This was posted on October 16, 2009, but nothing's really changed since then. If anything, it's gotten worse. The blog posting is titled Self-Defense in Christianity, Part 1, and there are 4 parts all total. It reads, "The issue of self-defense is a pressing one for Christians today. It is not an issue that we can ignore or sidestep. American Christians view physical persecution as a problem faced by the church in countries like Sudan and the Philippines, but the reality is that violence against Christians is increasing here in the United States as well." And boy, it's been, 8 years since he wrote that, and it has indeed increased. Everything has increased. Not just violence against the church, but you've got Islamic terrorism, you've got MS-13 gangs, other gangs, you've got increased violent crime, you have killer clowns, right? Oh my gosh. There's just all kinds of things going on out there. If you haven't already dealt with the issue of can I use deadly force to protect myself or someone else, man, you better get that done, because it doesn't do you any good whatsoever to have a gun if you haven't decided whether or not you can morally use it or not. That's what you should do before you pick up the gun. Now, it's possible that the process of learning how to use the gun, of going to a concealed carry class, reading books, getting educated on the subject can help you decide whether or not you believe that you are legally and morally justified in using deadly force. So definitely get informed. Do as much study as you need to do. Talk to your friends, talk to your family. Oh, and here's a novel approach. Talk to God. Yes, if you are a Christian, you believe that you can talk to God and that you indeed should talk to God. Ask God what he thinks about it, and then go into the Bible and see what he wrote about it. Because as John summarized so well, Christians are indeed allowed by God to use deadly force in certain scenarios. I would go even farther than that. In my opinion, the way that I think, in my warrior mindset view, now I agree that there is room for a conscientious objector within Christianity. No problem there. I got that. I understand that. And you can be a conscientious objector without being a coward. I believe that as well. But there are extreme cases where I really don't believe you can be a conscientious objector, a pacifist, and still maintain a moral point of view. For example, you're in McDonald's Playland, right? Guy walks in with a gun, he starts shooting. He's killing children. And you sit back and you go, well, I'm a pacifist, I can't do anything about this. This must be God's will, so I'll just allow it to happen because I just don't believe I should get involved in this. I see that as diametrically opposed to the love that Jesus Christ taught in the Bible and in his life. Any person who would sit by and watch as innocent children were slaughtered and do nothing, that is not a moral act. That is not a moral person. Whether you use a gun or not doesn't matter. Yeah, if you don't like guns, fine, don't use guns. That puts you at a severe tactical disadvantage. But when innocent people are being killed, how can you not do something? How can you stand by and just say, I'm a pacifist, I can't get involved in this, whatever happens, happens. Well, the problem is these are real people being killed. Could be a 6-year-old little girl like my daughter Amethyst. You heard her at the beginning of the show. Are you really going to stand by and watch someone kill my little girl? You may say, well, that's not fair. You're putting it in human terms. Well, we are human, aren't we? So how can I not put it in human terms? To do anything less would be a disservice to you. If you stand by and watch my little girl be brutally murdered by an insane man or a man on drugs or a demon-possessed man, whatever, it doesn't matter. If you stand by and let her be murdered, I can't respect that. I can't respect you. I can't even like you. If someone comes in and starts killing your daughter, I'm sorry, it's time to get saddled up and cock-locked and ready to rock. It's time to defend that innocent little girl. That's the way it should be. It's the way it's been in the past. You can defend pacifism to a point, but when innocent people start dying because of your pacifistic views, then that's where I stop defending your choice for that mindset. So I'll make a deal with you. I'll help protect your children, you help protect mine. And if you don't believe in guns, fine. Then you go at them with your bare teeth, your fangs, your claws. Rip off a table leg. You sacrifice your own life. You want to go ahead and try and reason with that person? Go ahead. Other people have tried and they died. That's what the principal did at Sandy Hook. Walked up and she tried to reason with the young man. She was quickly dispatched and then he moved on, killed 20-some more people. You can't reason with a deranged lunatic. You can't hold them to the same voice of reason and logic because it's not like ours. John did a really good job of summing up a sociopath. We don't understand them. We're not supposed to understand them. They are not understandable by the average normal psyche. You just can't do it. When that bad guy comes in, and I know I speak in very black and white terms, don't I? I refer to them as bad guys and good guys. I was raised in a much simpler culture where things were black and white. You looked at a given situation, you go, okay, this is right, this is wrong. The problem is these days people don't know what right and wrong is. They're very narcissistic in nature. They view a scenario and they go, okay, what's in my best interest? And I'm not saying that has no place, but I'm saying, what did Jesus say? Greater love has no man than to lay down his life for his friends. In my mind, that is the greatest act of love, is to put your life in danger when someone else is being threatened. That's what Jesus Christ did. Went to the cross for us, was brutally tortured, and then brutally murdered by the Romans. Greater love has no person than to lay down his or her life for their friends. And that's what we're doing when we carry concealed, when we carry open, however we do that. That's what the warrior mindset is about. The way I see things, the way I think, and my very simple Marine Corps mentality. You're a bad guy. You're trying to hurt someone innocent. My job is to stop you. Now, I can be smart about it. I can be tactical about it. I can wait for the best chance of tactical success. But the bottom line is, my job as a human being is to protect innocent life. It's my job. It's my responsibility. And if I want to be successful at that, I have to train. I have to train, always, always train. Certainly John Correia has done that, and he's also a trainer as well. So once you decide to use deadly force, I can use deadly force, then your job at that point is to train for the best possible outcome. And the best possible outcome is you have used deadly force, you've stopped the threat, bad guy is run away or he's down, and the innocent people are still alive and still flourishing. That's the way that it has to be. The issue of creepy clowns on the prowl, we'll just lighten it up here a little bit. In the next couple of weeks, I'll be coming back to you and I'll be reading news articles about when creepy clowns attack. These people are nutcases. Eventually, one of these clowns, they're going to get shot. So if you were thinking about becoming a creepy clown, please don't. Think twice about it. Because eventually one of these clowns is going to die. And eventually, one of these deranged people, they're going to dress up like a clown and they're going to go on a killing spree. So beware of the creepy clowns. Oh, and all of you on your church safety team, beware of naked men with rifles. You might want to wait out at the door in the foyer and monitor people coming in. Anyone totally naked with a rifle, you need to do something. I sent out an email to my church safety team. I said, I guess we're going to have to be on the lookout for naked people with guns at church this Sunday because it's starting to happen. And one of the guys wrote back and said, well, isn't that profiling? Well, I personally think it's okay to profile naked people with rifles walking into church. That's a yellow flag for me. Yellow, orange, red flag. Time to spring into action at that point. All right, folks, well, we are running out of time. But as always, it's been great. I've enjoyed myself, and I hope you have too. Next week on the Home Defense Show, we are going to have a man named Marcus Weldon, a.k.a. the Santa Shooter from Detroit, Michigan. He had to use deadly force several years back, and he spent some time in jail that should not have happened. Got caught in the legal system ringer, but he's written a book called The Santa Shooter. Marcus is going to be on the show, and we'll hear all about that next week. Until then, remember, your purpose in life is to find something greater than yourself and serve it. Always remember, God, family, country, in that order. It's important how you live, but it's equally important how you die. Your family and the ones you love need your protection, so train, always train, stay alert, stay alive. Until next week on the Home Defense Show, this is your host, Skip Correia. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show. Now, Get out there and protect the ones you love. We'll see you next week with more of the best in home defense.
Bye-bye, boys! Have fun storming the castle!